Okay, I want you to just relax and listen to me, and you can watch this as many times as you need to. Remember how I stress so often that what we want to do when we write an expository essay is think about the reader. Always make sure the reader clearly understands everything that you're saying. And make sure that everything is edited so that the reader doesn't have to stop and figure out anything. You have laid out the facts, you've laid out the information. So, in doing that, there will be times when we want to include quotes from the actual piece of literature that we're writing about. Makes sense, right? If I'm writing about a character, I need for my reader to hear what that character has to say. So, sometimes the quote that we want to include is longer than it needs to be. And I don't want the reader to have to read a bunch of words that they don't need to read to understand my point. So I'm going to make an example, and we're going to do one today. Let's do it together. First, let me tell you about this sentence that we're going to be, this little paragraph that we're going to be writing. Have you ever heard of The Big Lebowski? It's sort of a cult classic, and it is the story of this character who is the most unlikely, immature hero ever written. No, I don't know if ever written, but he certainly is. So I want to start by explaining to the reader how unlikely a hero this character is. And so I need to have some quotes from the actual script so that my reader understands that. This is the character of Jeff Lebowski, who has named himself the Dude, and kind of a popular character if you are a movie buff. And so what I want to do is show the reader a little bit about the context of Jeff, the Dude. And that is laid out by the narrator of the film, who is named the Stranger. So let's see what I've written. Okay, so the purpose of this paragraph is to explain to the reader the adolescent tone of the film. The adolescent tone of the film correlates to the immature nature of the hero. So, I've included this quote. As you can see, the quote goes on forever. It is too long. So first things first, let's look at this first sentence. Jeff Lebowski has named himself the Dude and finds himself in an unlikely predicament. The immature nature of the unlikely hero of, whoops, we need to put this in italics, don't we? Because it's the title of a film. There we go. Is outlined in the opening monologue of the narrator, the Stranger. A colon, because we know that several lines of text are going to be included. Now you help me together while we sort this out and take out what we don't need from this monologue. I'm going to leave this, the Stranger voiceover, since that is important for the reader to know who is talking. Even though I've said it, these are the stage directions from the writer. Now, I look down here, and what is the point that I want to make from this? Because I can't just put the quote in there. The reader goes, okay, that's a nice quote. What does it mean? So I'm going to explain to the reader. Notice the narrator's use of slang to refer to deadly dictator Saddam Hussein. In truth, this vile murderer slaughtered anyone who tried to stop him from the 70s until his demise. Hussein is responsible for a conservatively estimated 250,000 people. There's the source where I got that information. It's an article. A longer article will be, of course, in the Works Cited page, but that's just the short form so that the reader can see where that came from. Where did I get that number? I need to let the reader know that. Yes, the Stranger uses a slang, The Stranger uses a slang contraction. He refers to the Dude as a lazy hero. This use of words indicates an immature and unsuspecting hero. All right? Now, let's look at this long monologue. What do I not need? I don't need anything in here that has anything to do with anybody except the character. That's right. I don't need anything except that. So, way out west, there was this fella I want to tell you about, fella by the name of Jeff Lebowski. Do I need that? No, because I already told the reader that Jeff Lebowski is his name. So I can take that out. At least that's but he never had much use for it himself. Mr. Lebowski, he called himself the Dude. Okay? Don't need that because I've already told the reader. Now, the Dude, that's the name no one would self-apply where I come from. Anything that has to do with I, in other words, about the stranger, I don't need. I'm not describing the stranger. I might in another essay, but not in this essay, not in this paragraph. So I can take that out. I'm going to leave this for right now. Okay, so, okay. All right. And then he says, I again, don't care. Okay. We call it Los Angeles City of Angels. I didn't find it to be that exactly, but I'll allow there are some nice folks there because I can't say I've lived in London. None of that makes any difference. None of that. Okay, so what about this? We're talking about the setting and the tone of this character. So we're not talking about Los Angeles. We're not talking about the location. We're talking about how the stranger describes the hero. So let's take that out in English too. So I won't do it with a smile on my face. Okay, so let's do that. Now this we do need to keep in there because, let's take that out. Now this here story I'm about to unfold took place back in the 90s, just about the time of our conflict with, notice this contraction, and the Iraqis, notice that slang. Okay, the Iraqi war, you all, was a terrible, serious war. So many people were killed. Saddam Hussein was a vile dictator. But notice that the narrator, the stranger, is using this fairly immature language. Do you see that? Okay, so there's a man, I see a hero because he wasn't a hero. And I do want to keep that in because he is referring to the character as a hero. Dude here. There's a man. Well, he's a man for his time and place. Okay. Okay, that's the dude in Los Angeles. Even if he is a lazy man, we want to keep that. And the dude was most certainly that, quite possibly the laziest in Los Angeles County, which would place him in the running for the laziest worldwide. But sometimes there's a man, sometimes there's a man. All right. So we don't need any of this because as soon as he says, I'm done introducing him enough, don't need that. Now, this is still a long quote, isn't it? So let's make sure that we cut this down a little bit more. We do want to keep the 90s because that's where he sets the tone. Okay. Let's just take that out. Okay, and sometimes there's a man. I'm talking about the dude here. Sometimes there's a man. Well, he's the man for his time and place. Okay, so let's just... All right, we'll just leave it in. He fits in there. He fits in there. Don't need that. And that's the dude in Los Angeles. If he was like that, okay. I don't think we need that. Okay, but you can see, my goodness, I'm taking out a lot of stuff from this monologue. Won't the reader be confused? Won't the reader wonder if there was more to this monologue than what I've included? Well, what we do here is we're going to add those magical little ... And that lets the reader know that information before here has been cut. Okay, and that one, okay, okay, and this, we had cut out some stuff there. Let me mention, I won't say he's a hero, because what's a hero? Sometimes there's a man, and I'm talking about the dude here. Sometimes there's a man. Well, he's the man for his time and place. If he's this lazy man, and the dude was certainly the most like that. Okay, good. So since this is indented, I'm going to single space that so that it looks nice and the reader can easily find that. And where would the reader find this particular monologue? Well, I have the script. How did I find the script? Well, I went to my favorite repository of free scripts, and that is Simply Scripts. And I typed in movie scripts, and I'm going to scroll down to The Big Lebowski. Here, click it, and boom, there is the script. So this is on page 1. Back to my essay. Okay, so I'm going to cite this. Because it's indented and single spaced, the citation will stand by itself. Normally, as you remember, if it's part of a sentence, it goes inside the sentence so that it makes one nice, neat little package. But when it's inset and single spaced like this, it goes by itself. What's the problem with this little citation? That's right. This needs to be in italics because it's the title of a film. There we go. And that's how we cut down a very long quote and make it manageable so that the reader only sees the information that I need the reader to see to understand the point I'm making, which is that the tone of the film matches the tone of the character, which is an immature, laid-back character who is not likely at all to be a hero. And this is the opening description of that character as presented to the viewer of the film by the narrator, the stranger. And that's how you cut down a quote. Remember, you can watch this as many times as you need to remind yourself how to do this.